I'm Jess Steele. I've been an independent community activist for the last 30 years, for a long time in Deptford in southeast London, and then for the last 15 or nearly 20 years actually in Hastings on the south coast. In between, I went and worked for the British Urban Regeneration Association, and then I was Director of Innovation for Locality. So working with lots of community organisations all over the country, helping them take on very ambitious projects and do a lot of community asset transfer. So I've seen the best ones and some of the problems that you face when you're trying to do this kind of work. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what I've been doing specifically in Hastings with the Hastings Commons. And the important thing about the Hastings Commons is that it's a very fine grain neighbourhood, a small neighbourhood all focused around this initial building, Rock House, which we purchased in 2014 for community ownership. And when we started that, we talked to our tenants about what was the area that they most cared about, that they most wanted to benefit. And they chose an area just 150 metre radius around Rock House, so very small, fine grain. And you'll see what we've been doing there ever since. But first, just to locate it, this area is in a place called the White Rock within Hastings. Hastings is well known for its old town and for St Leonard's, but the White Rock was a kind of missing zone, an area that there was no strategy for, that there was no real understanding of. And right in the middle of it was Hastings Pier. And Hastings Pier was closed by the council in 2006 because it was unsafe. It was owned by a company called Ravenclaw, based in Panama. So a very typical story of offshore ownership, not caring at all about the future of such an important, well-loved asset in the town. When we set out to save this as a local community, we didn't just focus on the pier. It's not about that individual building, although it is a very precious one, but it's actually about the whole neighbourhood. The impact of dereliction in a neighbourhood is not just on the derelict building. Of course, it spreads out, ripples out through that neighbourhood and causes real economic damage as well as social damage and damage to the community pride. So we were interested not just in sorting out the pier, but in the rest of the neighbourhood. And there was a lot of dereliction in the neighbourhood, not least because there had been a very significant newspaper industry there over 150 years. So it started off with historic buildings and then built further buildings like this one. This is the 1920s print factory building, and then continued on to build more modern blocks as well. But as with many industries, the print industry changed a great deal in the 1980s, and all of this closed down in 1985, leaving a huge amount of dereliction in the neighbourhood. And when I say dereliction, I kind of mean it. This really is, it's been empty for 37 years. It's been full of water flowing through it. It's been full of pigeons. In that time, it has had 13 different owners. And each of those owners, since it closed, has made money out of it without doing a single repair. Only one of the owners lost money, and that was an investment bank that ended up holding it at the moment when the music stopped in 2008, the financial crisis. So the building just kept getting more and more valuable while getting more and more derelict. That spiral was something we needed to address and needed to stop. Unfortunately, when we tried to buy the building at auction in 2014, we were unsuccessful. It went to yet another owner who was going to make yet more money out of it. But instead, we were able to buy the building next door, Rock House, a 9-storey office block, 1969 block, not terribly pretty, but we were given a meanwhile lease, a temporary lease on the basement there. And then just after a few months, the agent phoned up and said, "Do you want to buy the whole building?" So that was quite shocking. We weren't really thinking about buying the whole building, but we did end up doing so. When we first got it, we got vacant possession in October 2014, 9 floors of emptiness and trouble. We had a report from a quantity surveyor saying it would cost £1.9 million to renovate it, and we had £80,000 in the bank. So we threw away the report and we got on with fixing up the first couple of floors for some groups of tenants in the community that we knew already and knew wanted it. And so we got those people in, and they became part of the team, part of the capacity and part of the kind of ambassadors for the project. And they helped to shape what happened next. And then over the years since then, up till 2019, we would do a few more floors, get a little bit more money, get some more tenants interested, until by July 2019, the building was completely refurbished, completely full, and it has been completely full ever since. That gave us a track record which has allowed us to go on from there. We were very keen to make sure that we could spread the impact. One building, however good it is not enough to tackle the two problems we were focused on: dereliction and gentrification. So we needed to tackle the dereliction, but not simply by attracting people with more money, but rather for the benefit of local people. So in order to do that, we had a series of conversations with local people about whether gentrification was actually happening. If it was happening, was it a problem? And if it was a problem, was there anything we could do about it? And we came to the conclusion, yes, and maybe. So yeah, it was definitely a problem. Maybe the answer was to bring property into community ownership so that we could cap the rents forever. And that's what we've been aiming to do with the community land trust that we set up. And now you can see this is where we've got to. So we now have 8,000 square metres of building space, all very close together, all very complex buildings, mostly either derelict or at risk of dereliction, and we are bringing them back into use. The kinds of uses we go for: capped rent housing, so living rents homes. Living rents are set at 1/3 of median local income, because people shouldn't spend more than 1/3 of their income on housing costs. So these are capped at 1/3 of median local income, and then they go up only with inflation each year. And in terms of commercial spaces for small businesses, we set those at 2015 levels in Hastings, which were very affordable, and then capped them at that. And again, they only go up with inflation. So we have a wide range of different uses. Most of our buildings are mixed use in each building, and across the neighbourhood there's a great range of opportunities. But we see our role and our vision really is, our purpose is to create environments in which people can enhance their lives. So we're not trying to fix people. We're not providing a service that kind of fixes any person. We're providing space and facilities that people can be in to change their own lives. And that in that process, they will also start to reshape their neighbourhood. They will come up with ideas for things that they can do, for things that they can do together, that will improve the whole place. And we found that we select our tenants on some criteria based on need. They need affordable space, local connection, but also enthusiasm for the kind of ethos of commoning, of being together, working together for the common good. And we have found people from all backgrounds are keen on that. People want to belong, they want to contribute, and they want to collaborate, cooperate, and feel like they're part of something. We're trying to set kind of new social norms, really, for what it means to live and work together. So where it's normal to know your neighbours, it's normal to look out for each other and to look after the place. This is our public living room in a previous furniture and carpet shop that was closing down. And because we were in lockdown, the owner who wanted to retire wasn't able to sell his stock, so he packaged it up with the lease for us, and we took all these sofas, 6 three-piece suites and a whole load of other furniture, and turned it into a public living room. We have a wide range of different kinds of impact in our different projects, and this is our impact wheel that shows the different types of impact. But broadly, we are about engaging with local people to build community power in order to bring spaces into use, which will give people the opportunities to change their own lives and to shape their places. So this is the wheel we use to make sure that our projects are covering those aspects. It's not just about specific buildings or even the work that happens in those buildings. It's really important also to engage in regeneration decision making at the local level. So for communities themselves to have influence over how the neighbourhood, the town develops over time. And so the way we've approached this is in two ways. We've joined the Town Deal Board, so we're trying to influence the bigger picture of regeneration locally, but we've also bid for and won, and we now deliver a Heritage Action Zone project in our neighbourhood. And that gives us the opportunity not just to do our own buildings, but very much to support other people to improve the neighbourhood working together. I'm going to tell you the difficulty with all this is that in the time that we've been working on it since we bought Rock House, we've had, it says here 89 funding awards, but it's actually 91 now separate grant and loan awards in the 8 years since we bought Rock House. And the sad thing is that's £20 million, but it's never enough. Our ambitions as a local community are bigger than that. What's really hard about running 91 funding awards is not only the bidding for that money, but of course the ongoing relationships with funders, the ongoing reporting, and many of those funds unfortunately do not work very well together. So while I think it's right that we should mix the funding cocktail at a neighbourhood level, it's not helpful if the different funders are not good mixers, if they don't go well, they don't play well together. So it's a major challenge, and I hope that in the future there will be more suitable approaches to funding this kind of neighbourhood redevelopment work from a grassroots perspective. I'll just say a bit about the kind of who the we is that I've been talking about. So it's very much grown organically over time. We have established right from the start a social enterprise property developer called White Rock Neighbourhood Ventures, and Ventures is jointly owned by 3 different organisations. 2 of them are investment entrepreneurs. One is my own company, and one is Meanwhile Space Community Interest Company. So socially driven entrepreneurial organisations. And it's 1/3 owned by the Community Land Trust. And in the shareholders' agreement, there is provision for it to become 100% owned by the Community Land Trust once we get to steady state. But this complexity of this ecosystem is important. Ecosystems are complex, that's what makes them strong. But we always think we need internal complexity but external clarity. So we're moving to try and be a bit clearer about what this is about and how it interconnects. So it's all the Hastings Commons, but it has the ventures side of it, the risk-taking side, which takes on the buildings and renovates them and also manages them. The Community Land Trust is the bit that is out there in the community that people can join and therefore influence what we're doing. And it's also the long-term owner for all of the buildings. And then we also have this registered charity, Leisure and Learning, which is the kind of dynamic animation of the buildings. It's the bit that squeezes the buildings for social value before we renovate them, during the renovation, and ongoing forever afterwards. And that word forever is probably the most important thing, that what we are trying to do is establish a portfolio of freehold-owned assets or very long lease assets in a place that will always be held in community ownership. They'll change over time because communities change over time, but they will always be affordable. There will always be affordable places to live and to set up a business and to work in that part of Hastings. And that's the most important thing from our point of view, that long after we are all gone, different people will be able to take forward this community ownership, community benefit that these buildings offer. And just to show that none of this is straightforward, it emerges over time. These are some of the staffing diagrams we've drawn over the years, and this one is where we are now. This is a particular approach which is about making sure that we've got the risk taking on one side and the ability to take on and manage buildings, and then we're building what we call the spine, which is the long-term capacity for the Community Land Trust to be able to take that role of long-term community ownership. Thank you. I'll leave it there.